Thanks for joining us at Wilsburg Tech. Today we'll be replacing an Atlas fuel pump in tank. So I couldn't find anything about information on how to do this job. So this is how I went about it. So underneath the car you have this nice plastic fuel tank. Looking around, you can see that it has a place for a drive shaft, which means that's the same fuel tank for a formation. But where's the fuel pump? There are some visual cues underneath. And if you'll see, there's a square divot. That's where your fuel pump float goes down to. And the round circle is where your fuel pump is located. So looking to the side, you line it up. In this case, it's right at the front edge of the rear door handle. Here's the new pump. The reason we're replacing this is because the sender had stopped working, and Volkswagen doesn't sell the sender as a spare part. Well, this car had 100,000 miles on it already, so replacing the pump is no big tragedy. Got some tools together on the cart. So these are triple squares. I'm taking the center seat out, center row seat. The carpet that I have to take out is going under all of the middle and rear third row seats. So this piece right here just pops straight up. Got a bunch of little clips underneath it, but it's fairly simple. As I said, I've never done this job before, so I didn't know where all the clips were. In the front right there, it just pops right through the other piece, but I didn't know that yet. Leaning the third row seats forward, pulling all these pieces out. These are little clever pieces right there. Two little tabs on the back side. It swings out. These are annoying. These little plastic nuts. Special tool. Get that tool kit out. The bolts that hold all the seats down are a 10mm thread. In this particular case, they have a 16 head on them. If they're 8.8 grade, which would be printed on the head, and they torque into 33 foot-pounds. I've sped all this stuff up so it won't take so long and be so tedious. And there's a center trim piece right there that has these two rivets from the side that hold it in place. Just be careful not to pull that up like somebody did on this one before I got to it. They broke off two little tabs in there, and I had to do a plastic welding repair in order to make it fit right. In the back, I didn't know this at the time, but there's a piece of trim behind the seatbelt, center seatbelt anchor right there. And that piece of trim is going to prevent you from pushing it back. So you'll have to pull it forward and tumble it over onto the other seat. There it is. It's got a little rivet in the back that you could push the rivet thing out like the front, but I just chose to push it forward. Look, a trinket. Somebody's been looking for that. Taking care not to scratch up the interior panels and the carpet's coming out. That's progress. Now you could remove all of the center row and third row seats and roll the carpet all the way forward into the passenger floorboard there. I chose not to do that. There is a flap in the carpet underneath that first seat that I took out. It's just an X cut. I suppose if you were in a hurry, you could just cut a large horseshoe shape of the carpet, but you'd have to make sure it was your car and you were okay with that. I like to keep the cars like brand new after I finish working on them. So you won't be able to see it, but the release on this is the same as many of the late model Volkswagens. It's got a red tab on it. That means that you have to pull the tab up or towards the wire harness, and then you can use it to pull it with your thumb and rock it up. There's me pulling the tab. Nice and gentle. Easy to tear these up, especially if you have any age on them. So I'm pushing the connector on while pulling the tab up and got a successful release. Same thing with the fuel pump controller down there. So it's all loose. Lots of dust, lots of things to potentially drop into the fuel tank there. So I'm going to do my due diligence and clean it properly before I take it all apart. Once you drop something in the fuel tank, it's very difficult to get out. So here I have a air nozzle and a vacuum cleaner, and I'm dislodging everything that's dislodgeable, all the dust, any little rocks and pebbles, squirrel droppings, acorns. It just takes about 2 or 3 minutes to do this. It's really worth doing. Now here's where I find that the padding kit will pop right out. What the? Well, there we go. That changes the whole job right there. So I'm using a screwdriver to very lightly push on the tab, the release tab on that Bundy fitting. Nice and easy. And now I have a puddle of fuel on top of my work. I'm marking where the arrow goes on the top of the fuel tank in an area that's not going to be affected. Now I'm going to get that fuel up. You don't want to work in an area with fuel if you don't absolutely have to. Fuel has a lot of energy in it, and it could kill you, burn the car up, burn your shop up. All these things that you don't want to find out. I'm having trouble getting that rag down in that little crevice there to get the last of it up. So I'll grab my screwdriver and poke it down in there and get it all out. I never like to keep a gassy rag around because it's just one more thing, one more hazard. So I throw them outside, they can evaporate there. And I go and police them up later. So this is a non-sparking brass drift. I'm trying to take this ring counterclockwise a certain amount, but there are serrations on there that help lock it. It's a decent design, and I'm sure Volkswagen makes a tool for this, or 5 different tools for all this, and so far I've done just fine through my career with using a brass drift. So I'm going to go have a look at the new pump. There's a tab, so you can only put it in one way. And there's a place on the bottom where 2 hoses go in. We'll look at that in a little bit. Normally, I use a small 5-gallon bucket or a 3-gallon bucket, and I take the fuel pumps out of these cars. I lift it straight up and then slide the bucket underneath it to keep any fuel from getting in the car, because fuel just has this long-lasting smell that customers don't like. In this particular case, there's the 2 lines on the bottom. There's one of them that has a Bundy fitting. There's another one that has a latch, and that traps it. And of course, I've just put it down. So far, made myself a little trouble there, so I have to get it back up. I don't want to stress out the new part or break it, so I'm going to take a little extra time fiddling with it. Not quite. Need a smaller screwdriver. Success. It's tricky business getting this one out of there. Normally you can pull a fuel pump straight up, but in this particular case it's going to fight me. So right there, that little tube that I got my left hand on, and my right hand, that's the one you got to pull out. And when you pull it up, it all goes to the side, and all the fuel spills out of the holding tank in the pump right into the floor of the car. So I'll be out there getting that other rag to pick up some more fuel soon.
That is amazing.
Now I have to wipe up all of the fuel. I hope it didn't get into the padding kit, because that would last a long time. It was a hot day today. Made everything a little more difficult with the heat. By the end of it, you'll see that the sweat's just dripping off my face down on the work. Squeaky dry plastic. Squeak, squeak, chirp, chirp. There we go. Success. Get the float in first. Pull it to the side a little. Straight down. Tuck in that troublesome little pressure pipe. This is normal for Volkswagens to have that gasket. So the gasket has to go onto the fuel tank lip first, and once it's in place, then you can drop the fuel tank flange in, fuel pump flange rather. This one was especially difficult. It seems like this gasket had swollen over the 100,000 miles. It wasn't impossible to get in, but it was one of the fiddliest ones I've had. And sometimes you can put a little bit of motor oil on the new pump, and you can kind of butter it up where it drops in easier that way. But notice I don't take my hand off the pump after I get it put in place, because some of the pumps, not this car necessarily, but some pumps have a spring on the bottom that tries to force everything back up. So if you let go, then you have to start over again. So I'm lining up that little arrow so I know when I get that ring tight enough. So the arrow that I put on the tank is only to make sure that I've got the ring in the right position. Just nice and easy. Got all the time in the world, so I don't have to replace a tank. I'm sure the factory tool makes this much faster. So you hear me huffing and puffing in there. I've had a lot of birthdays, so things are a little harder than they used to be. When the arrows line up, then I've got it where it was before. Get everything clicked in, get everything a nice tug. Make sure it's not going to pop loose under pressure. I've seen that happen to a few of the less experienced mechanics. Really embarrassing. It's hard to get the trust back from your customer once you haven't put things back together right. And the car leaks a bunch of fuel while they're driving it. So this is the end of my day. I'm going to put this fan in here to evaporate all the fuel. This is the next day. Sparkly steering wheel. So now I'm going to go around and inspect to make sure everything's good to go at the fuel pump, and make sure I don't hear a bunch of buzzing and cavitation and air entrainment noises in case something's going wrong. I don't smell any more fuel, so that was successful. Yep, everything looks good. No unusual noises. No leakage. Now we're about to put everything back together. Now you have everything you need to do this job. Reassembly is the reverse of disassembly, of course. But I'll leave it in here nice and slow in case you need to see anything. This is the end of the informational portion of the video, so if you like watching people put stuff together, the next part's for you.
Would it be okay with you if I take the wheelbarrow and get the gravel and try to fill in some of the big old puddles?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay.
Okay.